Rob. It is time for Roommate, and it's time for snacks. You are the snack bringer of the day. What do you got for me?
Oh, yeah. I am indeed. This was...
That's a good title, Snack Bringer. I think maybe we should come up with something better. Maybe some of our listeners could come up with something better than Snack Bringer Rob Knight.
Yeah, we definitely need something. But we can do better than Snack Bringer. Well, I'm not sure if we can, right. But I think collectively the
Duke of Snack Bringing, I don't know. There's got to be something.
Yeah. So this was right after we recorded last episode, actually, where... we had said, or I had said, I really need to find, some snacks. I'd been looking. And then I was on my way to work. I went into this shop that I've been into a few times. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that they had the crisps that we spoke about a while ago, the jalapeno hers, they're like Cheetos type What's-It sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I see a new one that I've never seen before, deep dish pizza.
Oh my goodness.
It's got a little Italian flag heart over the eye. Yep. So, it's all authentic flavors there. Because
the American flag is still bigger than the Italian flag, though.
Right. And given the pizza that's on there is not a single Italian on earth that would eat the pizza that is shown on that.
The pizza that's shown is a lot like it's a Chicago-style pizza, basically. It's a deep dish Chicago pizza, I think. You know what? I'm just going to say it right now. Hers is doing quite a service to the people of the UK. They are bringing in all sorts of flavors of all sorts of snacks across the entire Portsmouth area, at least, and I assume the rest of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this pizza in the picture, it's as you say, it's quite clearly a Chicago deep dish pizza, and I mean, it's called deep dish pizza. So the Italian flag heart is very confusing because there's nothing Italian about this at all.
I know, although they would claim that it's very Italian in Chicago too. I'm sure. So it's it's derivative of Italy in some way. Don't tell Federico I said that, but it's an interpretation of Italian.
There we go. This is how we tell if Federico's listening or not.
It is.
Because we'll hear about it.
Oh, I know I will, for sure. Yeah, he's taken me some really good, authentic Italian pizza, and this is not the pizza he took me for.
No. But I will say, these were delicious. So it's essentially, it's cheese and a tomato flavour is what you're getting from this.
Sure, yeah. They're probably...
If there's one thing they do...
They're probably
they do really well, it's cheese.
Right. I was going to say, it's probably their standard cheese puffs, but with a little tomato flavor on them too, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I'm definitely going to get some more of these next time I'm going past that shop, because these were really nice.
You got to get the big family size bag. You just got like what looks like a little individual, lunch size bag.
No, this is not a lunch size bag. Oh, this is a large... I think it's the angle that I've taken the photo.
Oh,
but
okay.
No, this was a large bag that I ate over a couple of sittings.
Okay.
Like a grown-up.
All right. You should have just dove in and had the whole thing. Made it a meal. Come on.
Yeah, you could just have this for dinner. It's basically deep dish pizza.
It is. You've got vegetables. You've got dairy. You've got grains. You've got really a pretty balanced meal all there in a bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should probably point out neither me nor you are dietitians.
No.
So please don't take our advice.
No, don't take our advice. We would probably not do right by anybody if they take our advice on what to eat and what not. But I have a little something, although it's not very directly snack driven, but I went to a place called the QT today for a break. Do you know what the QT is, Rob? You should look this up while we're talking. You can QT. I guess you would maybe Google QT convenience store. QT's.
Okay, I apologize because I only have my clicky keyboard. So QT convenience. You can just listen to me.
Oh yeah, QT stands for QuikTrip, which is one word, and these are convenience stores, kind of like a 7-Eleven maybe. I don't know what else it would be like, that are, I think maybe they started in the southwest of the U.S. or the central plains of the U.S., but they're all over the place. And they're basically gas stations with a large convenience store attached to them, and they've got a lot of things in there. It's a very popular destination for the lawn maintenance crews. I noticed today when I was there were several trucks with lawn equipment there, and people sitting outside and taking a break and having a snack. But you go in there, and they've got just wall to wall cold drink cases, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. Lots of candy, lots of chips, a lot of beef jerky, a lot of prepackaged meals like sandwiches wrapped up. I don't know what else they have. Oh, they have a very big coffee section with these giant machines that can make all sorts of different hot and cold coffee drinks. And then they have what we were there for, which is these icy machines where they have these giant tanks on the top that are spinning, keeping crushed ice loose and mixed with some sort of flavor. And they'll have they had probably a dozen, maybe 15 different flavors. They had sugar-free watermelon. That was the one sugar-free one they had. Everything else was very sugary. They had Coke for frozen Cokes. They had cherry lemonade. They had mango. They had a whole bunch of different flavors. And you can get these, of course, in a very American-sized cup, which is essentially the size of a small bucket that you might use to wash your car, that you put a lid on and a giant straw and drink. I got a small, and a small was more than enough. I don't know how many ounces it was, but it was quite large. The sugar-free one was not working properly when we were there, so I ended up going with Coke, which frozen Cokes are quite good, but it's a fair amount of sugar. Anyway, I went there for the frozen drinks, but I also took a picture of. You've probably seen on either The Simpsons or somewhere the hot dogs that cook endlessly on these rollers. And they not only do they have hot dogs on rollers at the QT, they also have taquitos, which are rolled up tacos, and egg rolls that you can get, and they're foot long egg rolls. And so I wanted to make sure that I sent it by iMessage, a picture of what were these that I was looking at. Buffalo chicken bites with cheese is what this one was. I don't really know how this is created, but they also had hot dogs in little pastry puffs. They had egg rolls.
Okay, I've got your picture. Yeah, I think it's best to not think about how these are made.
I know. Well, this is also a very large contraption. I don't know if you can get a sense for there's the potential to put hundreds of hot dogs on this thing. It was not fully stocked when I was there, but there's a lot of convenience food happening at this place.
I kind of want to go here. I'm looking. They've got this lovely video on the homepage of all these people having a great time.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Buc-ee's. We talked about Buc-ee's one time, I think, which is gigantic. It's like that, but Buc-ee's is much bigger. But this is and I looked. They have they sell single tall cans of beer or Red Bull and sodas and everything. It's hot down here. You have to have a cold drink.
I'm also on their merchandise page.
Oh,
they have these trucker hats. Yeah, they got trucker hats with QuikTrip on.
Yeah.
They got some shoe charms to go on your Crocs.
Of course they do.
Of course they do.
I was introduced to QT when I was in law school because there was one a couple of miles from my apartment, and so when we were taking a break, we would go down to the QT, get a giant Coke or something to get some caffeine and keep studying.
Yeah, no, I'm into this. This is the kind of shop I like. I like a lot of choice of beverages.
Oh, I've never seen more choices of beverages. It's juice and soda and just literally anything you could possibly imagine or want. Waters, flavored waters, whatever it happens to be. But it's in the next town over, so I took a break and went over with Jennifer and just got myself a frozen drink.
Yeah, well, I've sent you the trucker hat that I found.
Oh, I need to see this. I see they have pretzels here too, from what I can tell. They have hamburgers wrapped up in little packages that looked really disgusting, and a handy microwave that you could microwave them in. I think it's right off the highway, so they probably get a fair amount of like trucker traffic and stuff too, and travelers. Oh, this is kind of a fun hat.
Yeah, I know. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I should show up at this at the relay event is with this on in London.
Yeah, grab me one. Grab me one while you're at it. Yeah.
If I can get it here before I leave, which is unlikely, I would do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I assume they don't. I assume they don't sell this merchandise in the stores. I assume this is a bit like how.
No, I didn't see any merch when I was there. I don't.
No, because I think we've discussed it before, but like McDonald's have this kind of thing on their website. But obviously, you can't buy this stuff in a McDonald's restaurant.
Right. I used to live so close to the McDonald's headquarters that they had some really weird special McDonald's around where I lived, where they would test things out. And every now and then you would go in, and there would be something in there that you just didn't expect from a McDonald's, but. Those were the days, long gone now.
Yeah.
So you know what we need to do is we need to talk about something other than convenience stores, Rob. And I thought one of the things I've been looking at, I noticed that Polygon is doing right now is they're having a hot take week on the website, which I think is just a wonderful thing. And it's like, yeah, I mean, one of the articles I saw today was the Sonic series would be so much better if there weren't any video games associated with them. I was like,
amazing. It's
like, oh, that's perfect. That's like, just something to get people really, really riled up and then try to defend it. And I think you should look for that series on Polygon because I'm actually tonight, I'm planning to actually go through and see how many articles they have so far in this series because I like it. I just like that kind of idea. But my hot take of the day is that the Stream Deck is garbage. Now, I know, coming from someone who writes on a productivity blog, the Stream Deck, I have one. It's in a bin in my closet. I don't use it. The reason I don't use it is because it's a big chunky piece of plastic with these buttons that are all curved and distort the images under them, and it drives me bananas. Plus, the software doesn't work very well. And so I got tired of fighting with it, and so I took it away. I got rid of it. I do have a loop deck, which I don't use as much as I thought I would. So there's like this combination of things. I think the design of the thing is bad. I think the chunkiness of it is bad. Although I realize they make smaller ones than the one I have, which admittedly was the biggest one. The software has never been very good. It's buggy. It's like, for a long time, shortcuts didn't work with it, even though they said it did. That's gotten a lot better, I know, more recently. The reason all this came up is because they're doing this whole API thing for the iPad, which I'll get to in a minute. But I don't like the software. And I don't like to rely on anything that I can't take with me is really what it comes down to, I think, too, is that it's nice to have these things when you're sitting at a desk. But if you grab a laptop and go somewhere, now you're without a critical piece of kit that you rely on if you don't have it with you. And that goes back again to the design. It's just too chunky to do that. Something like the Loop Deck works a little bit better for that because it's pretty flat and can be packed in a little bag, or whatever. But even that, I'm not so into that. That's why when I have used these devices like the Loop Deck, or even when I was using the Steam Deck, I try not to rely on their software and the macros that their software implements. I try to rely on using them to trigger keyboard shortcuts that are tied to other automation tools that are available on my Mac, whether I'm using the peripheral or not. So things like shortcuts, for instance, so that even if I don't have it with me, I can still do that because I hopefully remember the keyboard shortcut or can figure it out somehow. I don't know. What do you think about the Stream Deck?
Yeah, firstly about the Stream Deck, I will say, we must have spoken about the Stream Deck and the Loop Deck for the past, 4 or 5 years, maybe?
Yeah, on and off, yeah.
And I think every time we've talked about it, I've always said, oh, yeah, I might get one at some point. Let me tell you now, there has been at least 3 times where I've had one in my basket. And every time I look at it, and even the most recent one, the cheapest one I think is about £100 now, the new Steam Deck Neo, or Stream Deck Neo.
Yeah.
every time I've had it in my basket, I just think, I don't want to spend this much money on this thing.
Yeah.
Not when it's just buttons. And to your point about keyboard shortcuts, I have the additional buttons for my 8-bit do keyboard, and that's exactly what it's doing. Those extra buttons are just mapped to a keyboard shortcut, which I am then controlling in other software.
Right.
So I can still do those things if I'm just on my MacBook or wherever I am. And I think that's the way to go, because as you say, otherwise you're relying on weird third-party software that you don't want to rely on.
Yeah, you end up tied to your desk too, which is sometimes you just have to work, whether you're at your desk or somewhere else, but sometimes it's nice to have a break from being in one place. I know oftentimes in the afternoon, I leave my office and I go work out on our balcony or something because I just need a break and I don't want to be cooped up in a single room all day long.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I think I said last week, I have some extra buttons coming for my keyboard that I think they're coming in a few weeks. But those buttons will just be mapped to either keyboard shortcuts or system level things like volume potentially or brightness, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So even if I'm not at my desk, I'm not losing anything. I have a massive button here that all it does is swipe over to the full screen music app.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can do that from the keyboard or, even from the mouse or whatever. But I have these big buttons and it's kind of nice to just hit that and it just goes over to it and I can see what's playing or I can pick something else.
Right.
But I don't need that to just carry on with my day.
Yeah, it's a convenience thing, which I get. And I think that is nice. I think one thing that Elgato probably is doing better with the Stream Deck is that some of the newer models that have incorporated a screen in them are doing a better job of integrating with their other products so that if you're using one of their cameras, say, or you're using their software with one of their cameras or microphones or whatever it is, you can see your levels on the screen, or you can see what your frame rates are for your capture card that you're streaming a video game. There are things there that I think that they're doing better that help the Stream Deck tie together their other existing products. But in terms of what I think a lot of people who are Apple nerds who have bought a Stream Deck in the past use them for, they don't, I mean, some of them obviously do. Some people obviously do that. But I think oftentimes it's really looked at in terms of things like running Keyboard Maestro macros or shortcuts or whatever it happens to be. And the thing that got me thinking about this is that they actually announced something that's very interesting to me that I don't think will actually ever go anywhere, which is a new API for connecting a Stream Deck to an iPad and controlling apps with it. And this is the result of an API that Apple introduced last year with iPadOS 17 called, I think it was 17, Driver Kit, which allows third parties to install drivers on iPad OS, maybe on iOS too, but definitely on iPad OS. And so what you do with this, ultimately, I think it's an alpha right now, is ultimately there will be an Elgato Stream Deck app that will be kind of the interface. It will install the driver for you on your iPad. Then you'll just connect your Stream Deck to your iPad and you'll be able to do stuff. And in the video that I watched, they were controlling whatever their app's called. I forget the name of it. Maybe it's Elgato Capture. The thing that works with their capture cards for capturing, video game footage and stuff. And it was pretty cool because they were able to show those frame rates for the video game on the Stream Deck screen, and they were able to change the UI view from a zoomed out view to a zoomed in view and things like that. And so it's got a lot of potential. And I think that it will ultimately be something that obviously is integrated with Elgato's apps on the iPad, which is good in and of itself because it makes the Stream Deck more valuable for people who use that stuff. What I don't think we're going to see is many developers incorporating it into third-party apps beyond Elgato. I could see it coming to some very some particular streaming apps for video streamers or for video production. But you're kind of, I mean, think about it. You're talking about the iPad, which is pretty niche in and of itself, and the Stream Deck, which shrinks that universe substantially more. And then of those people, the people who are using video stuff, it just seems to me that, for instance, if you have a text editor, someone is not likely, a developer of a text editor, I don't ever see developing something for Stream Deck or incorporating it into a browser or incorporated it into, I don't know, maybe into an image editing app, I suppose, is something I could see. But for instance, maybe like Things, right? Like a task manager. I just don't really see this getting a hold in anything beyond kind of strictly video production and maybe streaming. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I did say, we've discussed this a little bit earlier on today, but the buy-in for a Stream Deck is minimum £100.
Right, that too.
Potentially more than that.
Yep.
This isn't like so this is not like a little miniature controller you buy for say $20 or something. Like it's a fairly pricey accessory, especially if we're talking about the iPad. And if you're the kind of person that wants this, you've probably already bought the iPad and a keyboard and the pencil and maybe some other bits for it. So at that point, you've got that buy-in for the Stream Deck, and then
right.
What's the advantage to a developer supporting this over just supporting or just having a robust set of keyboard shortcuts? I'm just not convinced there isn't much of a sell there beyond, as you say, I think these very niche things that are maybe specific to streaming, which
right.
I think really, we're talking about how the Stream Deck is bad, quote unquote, which I don't disagree with you, but clearly streamers like it.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like they're the only market that really love it.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. It's a hot take. I don't really think the Stream Deck is a piece of garbage. I think it's I think it's an unnecessary tool that for a lot of people. I think streamers obviously love it, and it must be valuable to them. I do know a lot of automation people like it a lot as well. I'm less convinced that it really is necessary for that kind of stuff. I certainly don't personally think it is, but I mean, it is what it is. If you like it, you like it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The thing is I think what you were hitting on, and what I was talking about earlier, is that I think that that Elgato probably figured, why not open this up, because it will be more valuable if other people are adding this feature to their apps. That becomes a way for us to sell Stream Decks through other apps, but that this is really built to integrate their cameras, their lights, all that kind of stuff that Elgato's doing, which is perfectly fine. I think that that's a really good use case for it, because they make a lot of equipment now between microphones and cameras and lights and all that stuff, which if you are doing a Zoom call or you are on a Twitch stream, you do want to be able to control those things easily with push buttons, that you don't have to kind of like take your eyes off the camera or whatever. That all makes a lot of sense to me as a way to integrate their devices. They even, they have a teleprompter now even, which I know people are into. And so, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense from them as makes it more valuable to be into their ecosystem of products. But I don't think it will be widely adopted outside of that. Now, I may be wrong, and I'd be happy to be wrong, I guess. I mean, I don't have anything against Elgato. I actually own a bunch of Elgato stuff. I've got an Elgato microphone arm, and I actually recently got a key light and a camera, because we're doing more video stuff at Mac Stories. So I think there's a lot of their stuff is quite good quality. I have not tried these most recent, like the white and some of the other Stream Decks that are out there. Maybe the build quality is a little better. I do sort of feel like the Stream Deck is the least nice product that they make in terms of like the build quality and stuff. But maybe that'll change over time as well. It feels to me, it feels like the least premium of their products. And their stuff is, as you said, it is pretty pricey.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume with the Stream Deck that all the money is going on the tiny screen, from behind the buttons.
Yeah,
all of that kind of stuff. Like, I suspect that's why we're not seeing, the same build quality that you get from, say, the microphone arm and the kind of stuff that they make, because I can't even begin to imagine what all those tiny little screens is costing. Like, it doesn't seem fun to have to deal with that.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I mean, there's a whole other bunch of stuff that goes into that, because the Stream Deck obviously has to have significant software support, because it just doesn't do anything at all if it doesn't have the software associated with it, and whatever the other circuitry is that's inside is necessary too, more so than a light or a microphone arm. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what they do with their cameras, whether those are like off-the-shelf components that they're putting into kind of an Elgato shell, because that's the case with an awful lot of electronics these days. They're kind of white label stuff. It's true with a lot of like battery, power banks. It's true of a lot of like SD cards and SSDs and USB devices, and there's just there are whole categories of components that are really mostly white label stuff that's been branded by somebody. And a lot of times when you go on Amazon, you can see two things by two different companies, and they look absolutely identical, because they really are absolutely identical. They're just sold by companies under two different names.
Yeah, we in fact we bought we bought a dehumidifier for one of the rooms in our house, and then we were like, oh, actually, we'll get a couple more of those. Except they didn't sell the one that we bought, even though it had only been 2 weeks. So we had to buy from a completely different brand, but it is an identical product.
Huh.
And then we had to do the same again, where that brand had then disappeared. Because, as you say, all of this stuff is just white labelled in different boxes sometimes, or sometimes not. And then the price range as well. These dehumidifiers in this instance, like, they went from like £20 up to about £60, even though they were the exact same product.
Yeah, one of the things I've been actually interested in lately is finding out what the deal is with things like AliExpress, which apparently there's a way for AliExpress, I don't know if you call it manipulating. It sounds like they're doing something wrong, but finding loopholes to avoid tariffs, to be able to sell items very cheaply that are still being shipped all the way from China. Because you would think that, I don't know, a $30 item shipped from China wouldn't be economical. But I just bought like one of these retro handhelds for $30. And granted, it took 3 weeks to get here, but it got here and it works, and it was $30. And I mean, I was just thinking about that in terms of the white label stuff, because you see that a lot with, people selling through Amazon, but AliExpress, I think, is probably another place where you'd see even more of it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't understand AliExpress at all. I do not understand the economics of how I can spend, $20 or something on a few little knickknacks and just adapters and USB cables and stuff like that. And somebody just ships that all the way from China. It makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that I think the world is becoming more aware of how that's working, because there's so many of these companies that have apps, and they're becoming very, very popular. At least in the United States they are. And I think that's going to draw attention, just in terms of like, how is this even possible given the way international trade works? But I don't know. We'll see, I guess. I don't really have a political statement to make about it. I just find it fascinating, that is even possible to send like a $20 or $30 item halfway across the world, and that there's got to be some kind of trick involved there, and I'm curious what it is.
And yet, when I looked into you sending me one single comic, it was going to cost $20.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's the thing, is like this is the reason that's the same reason it floors me, because I send stuff to Federico all the time, and there's definitely a difference between a commercial shipper and an individual shipper. I know as an individual shipper shipping things to Rome, I can very easily spend $150, $200 on something that weighs a pound or two, but yet I can get something shipped all the way from China for essentially nothing. But I don't know. It's an interesting world when it comes to shipping things.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we're going to get some feedback on that as well, because I'm sure people will have interesting articles and things that we can.
Yeah, no, I would like I would like to learn more about it. Like I said, I mean, as you can probably tell, I don't know much about it. I don't. It's just an observation more than anything else. And I have run across a couple of articles recently about it that I think I saved. You know, it's one of those I think I saved things. I have so many articles I've saved, Rob. That's a whole topic for another day of read later apps that are just a black hole. I have a very black hole of articles that I have the good intention of looking at someday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Books Palma on the flight to England and read some of those articles before I see you and the rest of our friends.
Fantastic. Great. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up for this week. And yeah, we will be seeing each other in person for the first time since we started doing this show.
Yeah, this is a monumental event, folks. Rob and I have been speaking to each other roughly every other week since 2017, and we've never met. So there's that. But we will be meeting in jolly old England, as they call it, in London, not in Rob's hometown. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to getting over there and seeing the relay show and doing all that stuff. I'm clearing the decks, as they say. We're recording this a teeny bit early, but it will go out at the usual time because Rob will still be at home. I will be visiting my son in Ireland on that day, which is why we're doing it early. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Plus, another thing, people, if you want, you should listen to Ruminate on YouTube. The funny thing is, here's a funny story to close out the show. Ruminate is doing really well on YouTube. It seems to be getting served algorithmically to a lot of people. And I don't know whether I should feel sorry for these people or not, because there are a lot of very old episodes from like 2018 and 2019 that are shooting up the charts among the, I uploaded something like 920 episodes of various podcasts. It took like 10 days. That's a whole nother story too. But of those podcasts, obviously Comfort Zone, and one thing we did for App Stories that are actual videos, are all the way at the top of the list. But right there behind it are several episodes of Ruminate, which are just audio only, but they're in YouTube. And, a lot of people like to do that. It's a pretty easy, convenient way to listen on a Mac, for instance. And so, yeah, give us a subscribe over there and ring that bell, as they say.
Yeah, smash that bell.
Smash it, because we're going to the top of the charts. We're gonna dethrone MKBHD as the top tech show on YouTube. You've heard it here first. Ruminate is coming for MKBHD.
We're coming for everyone.
Yeah, everybody. It's not personal, Marquez. It's everybody. It's not just you.
I like that you addressed him, assuming that he listens to this.
He does. We're coming for iJustine too. I know that she listens too.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case.
Don't feel too bad about it. Again, it's not personal.
No, absolutely not. All right, let's end it there.
All right, talk to you later, Rob.
Speak to you later.